Dylan Huckabone. I like that name. Bant Ramp against Autumn Burchett playing Golgari Field of the Dead. You'll have deck lists up soon from our friends over at Cardboard Live, and this should be an interesting and fun one, because it looks like Dylan is taking a mulligan down to 6 at the moment. Both these players 7 and 2, still very much in top 8 contention. And so much on the line here this weekend for a bevy of players. Some looking to qualify for the Players' Championship, some looking to top 8 their first invitational. Some dead set on winning this invitational and doing it all in one fell swoop. Once upon a time is where Autumn will start things. That card will have to be revealed here in just a moment. It is a copy of Overgrown Tomb. The rest are headed to the bottom of the deck in a random order. And so away they go. Overgrown Tomb's going to enter the battlefield untapped, and a Gilded Goose will get things started here for Burchett. Over to Huckabone we go on that mulligan of 6. Fable passes the draw. Temple of Enlightenment is where he will start things off. We'll see where that top card is headed. It's going to stay on top. Pass the turn back. Looks like we're accelerating into a 3-mana spell. Tireless Tracker is a pretty good one. Good in a deck with a lot of lands, of course.
And this is Autumn's card advantage engine in the matchup against Sphinx's Revelation on the other side.
A Hollowed Fountain one in the battlefield tapped. Pass the turn back, Burchett. Doesn't have to be concerned with a card like Path to Exile. Just got to be a good feeling. There's a Field of the Dead. Trigger. Make a clue. Sacrifice the clue perhaps right away. That's exactly what she'll do. Tracker now a 4-3. Going to come in here for 4. Huckabone's going to fall down to 16. Huckabone's going to need an answer for this tracker because it does it all. Draws cards and pressures the opponent. Arboreal Grazer, not a bad draw here. Looking for some ramp is Dylan.
Tireless Tracker, though, from Burchett's side, puts a lot of pressure on Huckabone to respond in some form or fashion. So they are going to comfortably win a long game with the pressure and card advantage of Tireless Tracker otherwise.
Arboreal Grazer will allow a Plains to be placed on the battlefield, and we'll head back over to Burchett. They'll analyze their hand before perhaps starting things off with a Thoughtseize. And there is a Thoughtseize. Settle the Wreckage, Sphinx's Revelation, Hour of Promise, and a land in the hand. So some goodies here for Dylan Huckabone for Autumn to choose from.
I mean, I imagine here the premium card is Hour of Promise. Sphinx's Revelation also amounts to a handful of cards, but not at a ton of selection. And it isn't a guaranteed route to Field of the Dead, and it looks like Burchett agrees.
Oh, there goes Hour of Promise. Their hand looks a little jammed up, though. I don't know if there's another land drop to be made here. I imagine Burchett would be moving a lot faster. There was one, because it makes the turn very simple. Well, there's a Fatal Push to get the Grazer out of the way and keep the beatdowns coming. Another attack here for 4. Well, we'll pass the turn back over to Huckabone. Huckabone drew what looks to be a growth spiral. Didn't get a great look at it, of course. But now if you're Burchett, you know that there's a Settle the Wreckage on the other side of the battlefield. And how are you going to work around it, really?
Well, if you don't have a land drop to make, it doesn't cost you a whole lot to offer up the Tireless Tracker, because that card loses a lot of value absent your land drops. And Burchett would probably love to have more mana to work with to get closer to triggering Field of the Dead.
It was actually a copy of Elvish Rejuvenator, pardon me.
So I really don't think that, you know, if Huckabone just leaves up 4 and Burchett draws a land, maybe you just make a clue, sacrifice it, and see where you want to go from there. But I don't think Burchett would necessarily mind trading in the tracker.
We'll head back over to Autumn. No Settle the Wreckage to worry about on this turn, given the mana that's available here for Huckabone. But Huckabone is ramping very, very nicely. The only thing missing right now, it looks for Dylan, is a Field of the Dead. Plenty of different lands on the battlefield. He doesn't have to worry about Settle just yet.
Another play that is available to Burchett should it go that way, if you're worried about the Settle the Wreckage, you can also attack with the Gilded Goose and force Huckabone to decide whether or not to settle to get rid of the Tireless Tracker, but also allowing you to cash in your Goose for a land.
Because Goose isn't getting much better now.
No.
So
I think Burchett would much prefer to have a land over a Goose.
Castle Garenbrig was found off of the Once Upon a Time. So that'll be the land for the turn. With a clue on the way, assuming that Autumn did remember the trigger, which I'd be surprised if they didn't. Here come the beatdowns. There's a chump block, no surprise there. Pass the turn back. And there's the clue token for now. We'll get some other ones out there for you fine folks watching home, but for now we head back over to Dylan Huckabone, who appears to have drawn an Oko, Thief of Crowns.
Yeah, and the pieces in Huckabone's hand just don't quite line up the right way here. Passing the turn with Settle when Burchett knows about it is problematic for a number of reasons. A Revelation is pretty modest in this spot. The Oko is not the most likely to survive a turn, should you go that way.
Oko similarly modest.
Yeah, the problem is if you play Oko and you go and, either route you take probably ends up with your Oko not surviving for very long and not a whole lot to show for it.
Well, I'm not sure I agree with that, right? You elk the tracker, it becomes a 4/4. Oko goes down to 1 with the tracker attack.
No, because Burchett has the option of sacrificing their clue, getting another counter, and then that finishes off the Oko.
Yeah, sure.
Right. And Huckabone probably has so many eggs in the Sphinx's Revelation basket, like that's the way to pull ahead on cards, that even doing it for 3 in the face of this Tireless Tracker may not be good enough.
Well, we're going to find out. Here is Sphinx's Revelation. Up to 15 goes Huckabone. And a couple of lands, pardon me. Gross Spiral among those cards as well. So nothing too crazy from that Sphinx's Revelation. There's a Tranquil Cove. Gain a life, and now Burchett will sacrifice the clue. Tracker's a 5-power creature now. So we head back over to our Mythic Championship 1 champion, Autumn Burchett. And now we see an Elvish Rejuvenator here. Top 5 cards. And there is at least one land among them.
And all these mopey creatures do work to insulate Burchett from the Settle the Wreckage. Just one more attacker to send in there to convert into a land, should Huckabone try to answer the Tireless Tracker that way.
If Near Deadlands was the find there for Burchett, that desert from Amonkhet. Land for the turn is another copy of Field of the Dead. Now here comes the Tireless Tracker for 5. There you see the Dead Lands. Taps for a colorless. Good with the Eldrazi, of course. You can pay a life to add a black mana to your mana pool, and then 2 black. Sacrifice a desert, which can be any desert, including the Dead Lands, and put 2 -1/-1 counters on target creature and opponent controls. It is worth noting that you can only activate this ability only anytime you could cast a sorcery.
I watched Burchett yesterday tee off on some Llanowar with that thing.
Oh, yeah. Also weirdly good at killing a Winding Constrictor. It's what we call a combo or a non-bo, depending on who's having to deal with it. Here is Oko. Tyler's tracker is now an elk, but it's a 5/5 elk as opposed to a 3/3, given the 2+1/+1 counters.
And this is the flashpoint that Huckabone was trying to build towards of 7 mana. Oko would settle the wreckage mana up. The problem is I don't know how valuable Oko is going to be in the long term here, even if Burchett cooperates and attacks, because it's going to generate so many triggers off Field of the Dead that now you have an Oko facing down a sea of zombies, and that's not really a battlefield where Oko can do very much. Can't transform things into elks. Your clues aren't that valuable, and Burchett is going to be generating so many zombies that even if they have to attack into a 3/3 food token somewhere down the line, they'll have plenty of resources to work with. That's not going to be a problem.
Well, and Burchett deciding exactly how to start this turn off. Another desert here is a good place to begin. Getting enough different land types on the battlefield. Currently looking at 6 of them. Field of the Dead, Castle, Garen Brigg. Those 2 deserts, an overgrown tomb, and then 2 Field of the Deads.
Modern queue players, if you're still making your way to the table,
Yep, and Autumn naturally sees that Gilded Goose will be attacking.
And this is the hedge. You want to use your Settle the Wreckage? That's fine. I can convert these essentially useless creatures into additional lands. If you don't want to settle, that means I keep my 5/5 and your Oko's dead. Rocking a hard place here for Huckabone. I think at this point he's kind of committed to the line. I would imagine we're going to see the Settle the Wreckage here, but it doesn't look good. And you can see the hesitation. I mean, Huckabone knows this is his hands face up, and both paths are bad, but I mean, you've gone this far, right? What's the plan if you're not going to settle here?
Yeah, and is Settle going to get any better? I think is another question, too. Settle is weirdly a bit of a drawback in this spot, and if you were to settle away, all these zombie tokens that would be coming, that's just more zombie tokens that are coming, presumably. So, all right. Well, I think Oko should be dead.
Right, the counters are persistent.
Yeah, I think Autumn is pointing that out now, yes.
Yep. Yeah. There is some complexity as it relates to Oko transforming things into elks and what characteristics come along with that and what are stripped away. +1/+1 counters or -1/-1 counters remain on the creature. So that tireless tracker is a 5/5 elk. And if Huckabone wasn't aware that that's the way that it would roll, then I can see not casting the settle. But unfortunately for him, the Oko's dead with nothing to show for it, and he's going to be up in the same spot again next turn most likely.
Here's a growth spiral. Looks like maybe a Sun Petal Grove came rolling off the top of the deck. Indeed it did. So that's a green-white dual land. We're heading back over to Huckabone now. Hour of Promise does not appear to be a bad draw. Field of the Dead is the missing card right now for Dylan. So it looks like we might be going that direction. And there is Hour of Promise. Field of the Deads, plural, are headed onto the battlefield. Don't forget about this one, folks. Hour of Promise is a heck of a magic card. Search your library for up to 2 land cards, not basics. Just 2 lands, put them on the battlefield, tapped, and shuffle your library. Then if you control 3 or more deserts, create 2 2/2 black zombie creature tokens. Now, doesn't look like Dylan's got the deserts, but still has the zombies, given the text on Field of the Dead. Now here comes Field of Ruin to take care of Field of the Dead.
So 2 more zombies to show for it, plus cutting off 1 copy of Burchett's field.
And there is a basic forest. So, as you mentioned, 2 more zombies on the way here for Huckabone. Burchett will get 1 zombie, where Huckabone, I believe, now will have 6. And Justin Parnell of Commander vs. Fame is getting plenty of airtime during this game. Now the follow-up is Grazer. No land to show for that, but Huckabone never used that Settle the Wreckage, and that's looking to be pretty smart now. Abrupt Decay is going to take care of 1 zombie. It's a hard way to do it right now if you're Burchett. Got to start somewhere, though. Castle Lochvain of the draw.
It's not a bad one, but there's a question of just how much of the card advantage you can generate via drawing cards can keep up with just land drops and Field of the Dead.
Yeah, that's a real question.
I want to check Burchett's list here for Field of Ruin. 0 copies.
Bad news. Only 1 copy there for Huckabone, but making the most of it.
Came at a good time.
That's for sure. The Elks Tireless Tracker is going to head into the red zone. It's a 5-5. Huckabone sitting at 10 life. 5 zombies on the battlefield. And how will he block? If he chooses to block at all.
Well, going to 5 seems needlessly risky. I think there's a question of if you chump block with the Grazer or just put all the zombies in front and try to trade off. Looks like he's going with the chump block.
Here is Tireless Tracker. There is Castle Lochvain. Zombies and clues. And now it's an Hour of Promise, so this game is taking a turn.
I mean, you would bet on now with Burchett having more copies of Field and having a Tireless Tracker with a bunch of clues. You would assume they get the better of it over a long game. Not a guarantee, but I think Burchett has moved into an advantageous position.
It's certainly looking like it. That's a lot of zombies on the battlefield there, my friend.
Now, the downside here is that, you know, Huckabone can, in theory, reset some things with copies of Supreme Verdict and can use Sphinx's Revelation to find draws, to find additional lands and additional draws in a way that Burchett cannot. But the clues are such a powerful way of grinding through a game like that. And Burchett does not have to commit the Tireless Tracker to combat as a needless risk. The Tireless Tracker can just hang back on D, keep drawing cards, keep fighting land drops for Field. I suppose that's not true anymore. But before Oko showed up, it was true.
Oko changed some things, as Oko oftentimes does. A couple more zombies past that turn back.
Players in the 12:30 Legacy, 12:30 Legacy around 1.
A real prize for Burchett here would be Thoughtseize.
I was thinking the same thing.
If you find a Thoughtseize off these clues, you can take care of the Citadel pre-combat, and then I don't think Huckabone has much of a way of defending himself.
Well, here is a Thoughtseize and a couple copies of Abrupt Decay. So Thoughtseize, take your settle. Autumn trying to make this go by a little bit quicker because time is of the essence. We just saw our 2 8-0s get draws because they were unable to finish. So now comes, I believe, Abrupt Decay on 1. Got another. And now Autumn is just going to check to make sure that this is lethal. So 1 there, 1 there, and then I'll attack with all my creatures and my trackers that are Elks and win the game. So Autumn Burchett's going to win game number 1 here over Dylan Huckabone. Golgari Field able to take the lead in this matchup against Bant Ramp. And now we get ready for the sideboarded games, which could drag on even longer. It'll be interesting as Field of the Dead run into each other. We'll start things off with Dylan Huckabone, who's got 2 Tireless Trackers, 2 Teferi Time Raveler, 2 Rest in Peace, 2 Dovin's Veto, 2 Glass Casket, 5 1-ofs here in Walking Ballista, Night of Autumn, Return to Nature, Lyra Dawnbringer, and a Negate.
I think the best card here is Tireless Tracker. That allows Huckabone to keep up in a game that goes on for a long time. Burchett's probably cutting a lot of their removal. You could talk me into things like Dovin Vetoes and Negates kind of on spec, sort of assuming that Burchett is going to be sideboarding in spells, if anything. But there aren't a whole lot of high-impact spells in game number 1, setting aside the Hour of Promises. So we'll see. I like the Tireless Trackers. The Teferi is low enough opportunity cost that seems okay too. The counters, maybe yes, maybe no.
Other side of things here for Autumn. 2 Ashiok Dreamrender, 2 Pulse of Marasa, 2 Fatal Push, 2 Lost Legacy, 2 Liliana the Last Hope, 2 Unravel the Aether, a Kalitas, a Noxious Grasp, and a solo copy of Legion's End.
Some really good options here. The prizes to me from Burchett's sides, I think, are Lost Legacy and Ashiok Dream Render. There is just not a whole lot of substance in Huckabone's deck if you can handle a handful of cards. Ashiok is going to be hugely disruptive, and really, if you can pin Field of the Dead, it's possible the game just straight up comes down to decking, and Ashiok could do a lot of work there. If you wanted to get away from some amount of the creature removal, I think Pulsa Marasa is probably a replacement level card that's fine to bring in if you just want to cut some removal. But I would imagine Burchett's mindful of the possibility of Planeswalkers and creatures like Tireless Tracker, and won't go overboard going down to 0 removal spells.
Well, this matchup is about to get a lot more complex potentially, so we prepare for game number 2 here in just a moment, but very quickly, Season 1 of the 2020 SCG Tour is going to start real soon, folks, and we announced our dates and locations a little bit earlier this year. So you'll see SCG Columbus is going to be a Team Modern Open, just like we did last year. Heck of a show and heck of a turnout there, so we're hoping for more of the same to kick off 2020. We're going to Knoxville.
We're back.
Yes, we are. First time since 15. You and I were there. Cool little college town there for sure. Modern Open. We'll do a little Team Constructed Open in Richmond. Team Constructed in Philly as well. Pioneer Open in Indy, folks, February 22nd and the 23rd. Then we got the Regional Championships March 7th. More information coming about that at the beginning of next year. We'll do a Pioneer Open in Baltimore. Syracuse apparently is a mystery. March 21st and the 22nd. Do we have any other mysteries here? We do in Atlanta and Worcester. Cincy, Louisville, Philadelphia, and then we've got SCG Con Summer, Magic the Gathering Convention with our Season 1 Invitational, and so much more happening June 11th through the 14th. All that information is at go.starcitygames.com/schedule for more information. Knoxville, huh?
Knoxville.
Might see you there. Maybe.
We got to sort it out.
Still waiting.
Still waiting.
Working on it. Working on it, huh? Actually, let's call it. You'll do all the shows. Let's pencil you in for them all like you've been angling towards. Or are you dialing back on that a little bit now there, tough guy?
Well, you know, May and June are going to be busy for me this year.
Oh.
So I got to sit those out. We'll come back to it.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
Have to shut it down for a little while.
We'll break getting old.
It's not really the reason.
Both these players will take a look at their opening hands. Huckabone's going to send his back real fast. Did not like what he saw at all. Don't think there were any lands in that hand for him. For Autumn, looks like it might be okay.
I'm a little surprised that I think I caught a glimpse of Huckabone's opening hand. I'm pretty sure that I saw a copy of Arboreal Grazer, and that would be the first card I would side out in this matchup.
Yeah?
And 0-3 just isn't a card.
Yeah, well, I mean, it does ramp, quote unquote, but not always.
Right.
Not always.
Like, I would sideboard out Mox Diamond in this matchup, and Arboreal Grazer seems like that, but 1 million times worse.
Sure. A lot of cards are worse than Mox Diamond, so.
It's just a battle over accruing resources, and the 0-3 just doesn't, you know.
Top card will go to the bottom. That is a Lumbering Falls, and we are underway here in game number 2. A couple copies of Field of the Dead in Autumn Burchett's hand. Once upon a time, not a bad place to start. So we'll take a look at the top handful of cards. Autumn has made maybe an early decision, and now has made what appears to be a final decision in Elvish Rejuvenator. The rest of these cards will go to the bottom of the deck at random. There's the Field of the Dead, and we pass the turn back. Back over to Huckabone we go. Blossoming Sands, gain a life. There's Atlanta War Waste. Pass the turn back. Both players off to a slow start thus far as Botanical Sanctum the draw. And now here's a Tireless Tracker. So Huckabone has one of his own. And I think it'll be important for Autumn to manage this card. Looks like Abrupt Decay may have just been the draw for the turn. And it looks like that's going to be cast. And I think it's important that you kill this creature right away. It was, I think, instrumental in Autumn winning game 1.
That's a huge test right there, too, to be able to pass that one. Because Huckabone's entire sideboard is predicated on, Burchett going down to very little removal. Abrupt Decay is a low enough opportunity cost. It's good against planeswalkers like Oko, so you can easily justify keeping it in the deck. And getting a Tireless Tracker is quite the prize.
Well, it's a Lost Legacy, folks. We'll take a look at this card. It's been a hot minute since we've seen it, and we'll, of course, get confirmation on what Autumn is naming. This one can be incredibly powerful in certain situations. And here is the Hour of Promise is the name. You get to name a non-artifact, non-land card. Search your target player's graveyard, hand, and library for any number of cards with that name and exile them. That player shuffles his or her library and then draws a card for each card exiled from hand this way. So it doesn't look like there are any in hand here for Dylan Huckabone. You can see the hand of Growth Spiral, Settle the Wreckage, Sphinx's Revelation, and it looks like Scavenging Grounds. Maybe a little surprised to see Settle the Wreckage in after sideboard?
I don't know. I mean, he's got a lot of... Huckabone has a lot to cut in this matchup. And like I said, I saw Arboreal Grazer as we were combing through there. So I would rather have Settle the Wreckage than Arboreal Grazer for sure.
Sure.
Yeah, but you can see Huckabone's tools for this matchup are a little bit on the clumsy side and get a lot worse when his hand gets revealed. And that's been a big problem. It was a huge problem in game number 1 where Burchett was able to dance around Settle the Wreckage very easily. In this game, set aside the fact that I think Huckabone might just be on all tropical islands.
Yes.
No white mana for the Settle. Again, it's transparent, very easy for Burchett to play around.
Yeah, having some difficulty cobbling together multiple sources of white mana. Blossoming Sands right now is a green and a white dual land that's on the battlefield. So there is a little bit of white out there for Huckabone, but it's not the prettiest of mana bases at this stage. Perhaps Elvish Rejuvenator will help as he takes a look at the top 5 cards. Blast Zone among them as a choice, and it looks like Blast Zone is the only choice. So that land will enter the battlefield with 1 counter on it. But it is a hit nonetheless there for Dylan. Those cards will go to the bottom at random. And now there's a Fabled Passage, so double white is no longer an issue, as the Fabled Passage could search up a basic Plains, and now a zombie token has joined the battlefield from the Field of the Dead in the 7 different land types. Not hard for Huckabone to do, and we already know it's not hard for Autumn Burchett and their Golgari Field to do. So here's a Courser of Kruphix, an oldie but a goodie. Top card is an Elvish Rejuvenator. It's weird to call, Courser of Kruphix an oldie but a goodie, but it's about 5 years old now, I think.
Yeah. We've been doing this for a while,
Yeah, time flies. Theros block. Fabled Passage will be sacrificed. Another zombie will be on the way here for Dylan.
So Huckabone left over very good here in Sphinx's Revelation. But it's possible Burchett can keep up on cards if the Courser Kruphix is cooperative. They're not that far away from getting Field of the Dead online themselves. Now here's the question. Do you just take your money and draw 4 cards, or do you hold off wanting to get more? I err on the side of getting your money while the getting's good because of Thoughtseize in the opposing deck. Don't want to lose that Revelation.
Sure. Well, Rejuvenator's the draw. Lost Legacy's on top of the deck. Now here is the Rejuvenator. You see Dylan wants to make sure he knows exactly what Lost Legacy does. Top handful of cards here for Burchett. Ooh, the Rejuvenator. Did it miss? Oh,
First time I've seen that.
It's tough to do. That's
No hit with the courser either.
yeah. That's six straight non-lands. There's a forest. A little bit of a surprise there. Just shows you, excuse me, that there are no guarantees in this game of Magic. As well, it would be pretty wild if this one missed 2. I think there's a Field of the Dead. All right, 3 Field of the Dead in the battlefield. So we have 4 different land types out there, and top card is a copy of Legion's End, which does a nice job of sweeping up all the zombies. So Dylan is gonna tap some lands for Blast Zone and bring it up to 3 counters. You'll note Autumn's battlefield is full of 3-mana permanents.
And getting the courser off the battlefield, pretty critical here. Huckabone can't risk Autumn just stringing together some lands and getting Field of the Dead online when they have so many. It also frees up his zombies to start attacking, maybe even the Lumbering Falls as well. And even with the Sphinx's Revelation in hand, if I'm in Huckabone's position, I'm not super confident that a long game favors me, because you only have so much interaction for Field of the Dead. And once Burchett is up 3 fields to your 1, they're going to crush you just on each land drop. And a lot of your other cards get invalidated in that world.
There's another copy of Elvish Rejuvenator. That one appears to find Temple of Enlightenment, I believe. And so here's a zombie, and now there is your scry from the Azorius Temple. There's a Rejuvenator. There's Castle Lockvane. Now there's Legion's End to clear up some zombies. And now passing the turn back. What's a little bit unique about this situation here, while Dylan Huckabone does have a copy of Sphinx's Revelation in hand that he is working towards casting a large one here. Not sure how good that card is versus an opponent that has so many copies of Field of the Dead.
Yeah, I mean, what does he actually get to convert these cards into? So if he finds extra land drops, that's good. If he happens to find another copy of Field of the Dead, that's great. All right, cool. So we'll put that aside for a second. Copies of Hour of the Promise are off the table. Those have all been swiped with Lost Legacy. What is actually left in the deck at that point? Are there card drawing spells?
Yep.
A couple creatures that aren't better than a zombie. I just don't know if he can really pull ahead.
Burchett will draw. Looks like maybe another Rejuvenator's on the way. It's a Tireless Tracker this time. And now there's a basic forest. And there's your clue. And now it's time to sack that clue. Counter on the tracker, a card that again can run away with this game all by itself. And pass the turn back. If you're Burchett, this here's the Sphinx's Revelation. You're really looking for your own copy of Hour of Promise, but you also have Castle Lockvane to activate.
Yep.
Enough life to work with, I would say. It's not the highest life total sitting there at 12, but probably doing okay.
It presupposes that Huckabone could even make any inroads on the battlefield. And that's the issue here is, especially if he's down 3 Field of the Dead to 1, he doesn't have a way to generate extra land drops. He just plays 1 land a turn. So if he can't find a way to break up the cadence of play a land, make a zombie, and Burchett going play a land, make 3 zombies, that's the whole game. There isn't a whole lot of ways to move forward from that spot.
Yep, snap block. Supreme Verdi's going to trade 1 for 1 with the Tireless Tracker. We've, of course, seen Supreme Verdict sweep away many more creatures than that, but Tireless Tracker is proving to be difficult for Huckabone to deal with. So now here is a Field of Ruin. There's your zombie. This is an Arboreal Grazer. And that's going to put a land onto the battlefield. There is a Sun Petal Grove that will join the fray. Another zombie on the way. Now passing the turn. So the castle will go active. And Autumn will take some damage to activate it and take some damage from the castle itself. We'll head back over to Burchett now as they fall down to 8. Doing a quick count of different lands here.
I kid you not when I say that if Burchett is able to get these fields going, I think Huckabone's at risk of getting decked. Like, the game could go that way.
There's the Oasis. But that's only land type number 6.
And the Lumbering Falls attack can move down to 1. I'm surprised to see no Field of the Dead activation there at the end of the turn.
A little surprised too. Now
because that's a zombie off the land drop, and then you actually could represent lethal here.
Now that was a really, really, really big draw there for Huckabone. Picked up a copy of Ugin the Spirit Dragon.
Well, you know, that might sew this one up here.
Yeah, and I think that might actually get this game taken care of. A very powerful Planeswalker is Ugin the Spirit Dragon. Oftentimes you see it being cast off of Tron lands in Modern, but it's showing up in another format here right now. Pioneer for the full 8 lands.
Looks like Huckabone has a Dovin's Veto there as insurance too.
And that is going to do it. So Burchett unable to find enough different land types and land names to turn on those Fields of the Dead. And we're all tied up here in Golgari Field and Bant Ramp. And now time, partner is becoming very important as we're about to be underneath 13 minutes.
And neither of these decks are that well suited to play a fast game. There's only so beatdown they can go. They're much better defending themselves and blocking than they are at threatening the opponent and attacking. I think both of these players have played at a very crisp pace. The games haven't even been as long as this matchup can go sometimes. And we are under 13 minutes, both players still sideboarding.
Well, tick-tock. Tick-tock on the clock. We'll see maybe some speed magic here in just a moment. Doesn't look like Huckabone's going to change too much. Burchett maybe swapping out a card or two. So these players will get ready here for game number 3. Not sure if we'll have time to bring you a time-shifted match this round. We'll have to find out. But this match has been an interesting one between two Pioneer decks that I don't think were really expected coming into the weekend. Bant Ramp's got a little bit of a pedigree on Magic Online, but this Golgari Field deck that Sam Black and Autumn Burchett have brewed up really doesn't. I know you can expect content about that deck on StarCityGames.com Premium coming this week from one or both of them. And perhaps Autumn continues to make a deep run in this tournament. They would move on, pardon me, to 8-2 with a win. Do remember that these players are playing for quite a bit here this weekend at these 7-2 records. They are very much in contention for a top 8 berth where, at the very least, they'd walk out of here with $3,000. Top 4 is $5,000. A finalist is $10,000. And then the winner, $20,000. Plenty of SCG points and Season 1 invitational qualifications on the line, of course, for that invitational that's taking place at SCGCon Summer next year. You see all the match points, but there's more. There's plenty more. You win this tournament, you get an invite to our Players' Championship next month at the Star City Game Center in Roanoke, Virginia. Buys and free entry into SCG Tour Opens. Free entry at select events like some SCG Classics, and the thing everyone's really here for, the personalized token.
I know. Be an elk, be a food.
I'd be a gingerbread man food token.
A gingerbread man token?
Oh, yeah.
It's a good choice.
That's what I would do.
Looks like Huckabone has brought in his sideboarded copy of Lyra. I think if the removal you see is just Abrupt Decay, I could buy it.
Or and Fatal Push.
Yep.
You know, now Fatal Push I can't imagine is in the deck anymore. Abrupt Decay's got a lot more utility, but Lyra could steal a game very easily just being a 5/5 flyer with the right casting cost.
Saw Legion's End as well.
Very true. Temple of Malady and Castle Lockmain to start here for Autumn Burchett. For Dylan Huckabone, you see the Forest and a Temple of Enlightenment. No, excuse me, that's a Hallowed Fountain. They look very similar to Temple of Enlightenment and Hallowed Fountain, but a Hallowed Fountain it is. This is a Liliana, the Last Hope.
This is out of the sideboard as well. And there's a chance here that Huckabone cannot get this off the battlefield, nor beat the ultimate.
Yeah, I think the plan here from Burchett is pretty simple. Let's get to the emblem, and can Dylan beat the emblem, which of course is a -7. You get an emblem with at the beginning of your end step. Put X 2/2 black zombie creature tokens onto the battlefield, or X is 2+ number of zombies you control, fielded that it conveniently makes a zombie, so we could be preparing for a battlefield littered with zombies. Now, Blast Zone is timely. That's a good find. That's an answer to that problem.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of the development. You got to spend some time on that, but yes, it is an out to the Liliana.
And there's a Temple Guard. There's a battlefield tap. This deck is ramping very well thanks to Growth Spiral and Elvish Rejuvenator. Plus the Liliana, take care of the Rejuvenator. That part's pretty easy there for Burchett. Let's see if perhaps it's Tireless Tracker time. It's actually going to be Ashiok time. So there goes a Tracker, a Negate, a Revelation, and a Fabled Passage. Now the Graveyard is exiled as well. Ashiok Dream Render now on 4 loyalty with Liliana up to 5. However, again, it's that Blast Zone that can answer both of these Planeswalkers now.
Yes, I was a little surprised to see the second 3-mana Planeswalker deployed, since just the Liliana itself is going to put pressure on Huckabone to use the Blast Zone.
Now this is a big turn here for Huckabone. There's some 5-mana spells in hand. There's also a Blast Zone on the battlefield. So which way does he want to navigate things? Has the opportunity to play an Hour of Promise or a Lyra Dawnbringer, and it looks like going to do neither.
Well, the Hour of Promise is off the table, I think, with the Ashiok, and the Lyra is just not.
Oh, you're right about that. With the Hour,
you just gotta take care of these Planeswalkers before the Liliana goes ultimate.
Gonna mill a handful more cards, a couple of lands, and a Boreal Grazer and a Sphinx's Revelation will bite the dust. Next up here for Burchett is Elvish Rejuvenator. So top handful of cards. Is there a land in here? They missed last game. They won't miss this time. Llanowar wastes the fine. The rest of those cards go to the bottom of the deck at random. Underneath 8 minutes to go here in this match. Another 3-mana permanent on the battlefield to get swept away by the Blast Zone.
Well, that one just, who cares about that
It's already done its job,
yeah,
of course.
That one's already done its work.
Blast Zone's going to move up to 3 counters. And we're going to head back over to Dylan Huckabone, who's got to take care of these 3 permanents with the Blast Zone before these Planeswalkers run away with the game. Bombs away. Those permanents will leave play. A basic island. And a passing of the turn back over to Burchett. This is a Hatchet Oasis. This is now a Hour of Promise. It will resolve. Field of the Dead's plural perhaps on the way. And they are. 7 different land types on the battlefield and some zombie creation about to occur. And don't forget about sacrificing that Fabled Passage for even more zombies, folks. This is what this matchup comes down to. It's about that card.
And now, Huckabone's in the same spot. He's gotten into a couple of times in this matchup where ostensibly his best way to fight a game like this is with Sphinx's Revelation, but it's not clear he has the time, nor can he meaningfully convert the cards in a way that outpaces 2 copies of Field of the Dead.
Well, let's see what comes next. Maybe it's a Field of the Dead here for Dylan. He's going to find Field of the Dead probably, or at least turn his on with Hour of Promise of his own.
That's a big hit right here.
Couldn't cast it before because of the Ashiok being problematic, but now can do it. There's Field of the Dead 1. Well, let's make that Field of the Dead number 2, pardon me. Checking the different land types. We got a Hallowed Fountain, a Temple Garden, an island, a plains, a field, a forest. And now Field of the Ruin is number 7. And a Field of the Dead joining things as well. So some zombies on the way here for Huckabone, as we are about to be underneath 5 minutes to go in this match. So he'll also get 4 zombies. And now there's the Grazer. Doing a little blocking.
Nice.
Burchett will not sacrifice the Fabled Passage yet. Zombies. Let's trade them all. Grazer, not blocking just yet. Here comes the big follow-up. It's another Hour of Promise. That's a huge find.
Yep. This got to be fields 3 and 4 coming. And you can see why Burchett sat on that Fabled Passage. Had aspirations of setting up this, and now the Fabled Passage is worth 4 zombies instead of just 2.
Much bigger plans with that Fabled Passage, as here comes zombies aplenty. And there's a Desert of the Indomitable. 4 more zombies past the turn back.
And you can see, you know, Supreme Verdict and Sell the Wreckage in hand for Huckabone. These cards basically trade off with 1 land drop at this point.
I gotta say, I'm pretty proud of myself. Remembering Desert of the Indomitable.
Good hit.
From Ronus. That's how you do it.
Ah, yeah.
That's the cheat code. Verdicts. Clear it up. The Grazer's got to go too.
I think Huckabone may not have the requisite colored mana left over to be able to cast the copy of Lyra in hand.
Makes you question about that use of the Field of the Dead maybe a little bit earlier in the game. Never fired off until right now. So here goes Field of Ruin to take care of a Field of the Dead, which is what's occurring right now.
Burchett still getting the better of it, land drop to land drop here. 3 zombies versus 2.
You're going to get 3 zombies from the Field of Ruin taking care of the Field of the Dead. And now finding the forest off the Fabled Passage means you'll also get 3 more zombies, so it'll be 6 zombies to 2. Here for Burchett. 2 minutes left in the match. Might come down to a AEW style draw here, folks. Burchett's looking to get this game over with. That is a tireless tracker. This is a hissing quagmire. Ooh, a creature land might matter.
Yeah,
It could.
Just hard for Huckabone to keep his head above water because his spells are no good now, and until he finds a 3rd copy of Field of the Dead, neither are his land drops.
There's Novice Rejuvenator.
I believe Burchett's last card in hand
You got to be hoping it's a Thoughtseize,
it's
right?
Lyra. It's Vraska's Contempt.
Okay.
So cover for Lyra or any Planeswalker.
That's a big deal.
Yeah, that's a good one to have left over here.
Westvale Abbey is the find off of the Rejuvenator. This battlefield is cluttered with zombies, which means the ones that are active are more than happy to attack. Can sacrifice one of these clue tokens from the tracker if you'd like. I think what they're hoping to find, much like in game number 1, is a Thoughtseize to make sure that you don't have to care about Settle the Wreckage, assuming Thoughtseize is still in the deck. There are the attacks, couple of blocks. We've got 30 seconds left in game number 3 of this great match between Autumn Burchett and Dylan Huckabone. Back to Huckabone we shall go. He will draw. You see the hand and his inability to convert all of these resources to Settle the Wreckage. A Sphinx's Revelation, a Lyra Dawnbringer. Not sure any of these spells are going to be good enough. And we see what the most important card in the matchup is here, partner, and it's far and away Field of the Dead.
Yes. And I think there's a secondary thing that's going on in these games where Autumn is just getting the better of it out of lands with utility. The castle has been a big deal here.
It's a baby rev. When you're playing Bant Ramp, this is not how much you were looking to cast Sphinx's Rev for.
I don't know what the hunt could even be here.
Supreme Verdict.
I don't know if he can cast
I don't know. Yeah.
He doesn't have enough blue mana.
Yeah, that's an issue.
Right,
that's
cut off. He's cut off in both directions here.
Yep. So you're going to need blue, blue, white to do this, so you can't use the Force to cast the Verdict.
I would prefer a line myself of just cast Lyra with Settle back and hope that,
Hope the things align.
Right,
Sure.
yeah, maybe if Burchett just got land drops there, you're at least covered for one turn, and then you can untap and ripe for a ton, and, maybe you start pulling forward that way.
Here's Field of the Dead, 3 zombie tokens on the way.
And I think Burchett is likely to just dig like hell this turn and try to find a Thoughtseize or something else that answers Settle the Wreckage and then go into combat.
We're going to turn 1 of extras now. This game certainly favors Autumn. But can they get the job done? Oh, wow.
What's up?
Checking to see if the zombies can actually be made. Looks like there's 6 different land types. Yeah.
Ooh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, it got confusing because the Field of the Dead, Field of Ruin got converted into a land that Huckabone already had. Normally, it doesn't turn on and off.
Yeah.
Once Field of the Dead's on, it's on. But that's a weird case where that wasn't true.
Castle Lachvane might be getting activated here in just a moment. And it is. Thoughtseize, where are you?
I know.
Where are you? I know my opponent has Settled the Wreckage. Where are you?
Yeah, that Sphinx's Revelation sort of gave off some signal.
Gonna play a tracker. Gonna play a land. Get 2 clues. Make a couple more zombies, of course. Just trying to figure out exactly what mana to tap to sack some clues. Maybe a few 2 zombies made.
Yeah, because Burchett, I think, is down to 3 copies of Field, not 4.
Sack a clue. Don't think any Thoughtseize is cast this game. Memory serves. So each tracker will get a counter. That doesn't appear to be it. So let's try this. I don't think that was it either.
Lost Legacy would do it too.
Lost Legacy would be totally fine. A couple copies of Noxious Grasp and friends. Now, do you have to be careful with how you attack? That's a good question.
I mean, in theory, yes. I think practically no. Burchett's so flooded with zombies here that you can even over-attack into Settle the Wreckage and still be able to come back next turn for lethal. I would probably send in 8 zombies myself to threaten lethal through 1 removal spell. If it happens to be something like Azorius Charm instead of Settle. Although I guess there's no blue mana. I don't know. I'd probably still send 8 just to be safe, but 7's justifiable too.
The wreckage has been settled. Burchett will go searching for a handful of lands. We'll see how many. And of course, that means more zombies will be made. Because one thing that Burchett would like to do, which makes sense, is leave some lands in the deck in case they get settled again. Or if Huckabone were to draw Supreme Verdict and clear everything up, you don't want to leave yourself in a situation where you don't have enough lands to regenerate a ton of zombies and get the game over with in turns.
Yeah, Ugin the Spirit Dragon's a consideration too. You know, you saw that in game number 2.
And that's the kind of card that Huckabone could draw to force a draw in this match. I think that's very important to note. So one thing that Burchett did get were clue tokens. Picked up a copy of Abrupt Decay. Clue tokens, of course, from the lands that are in the battlefield from the Settle the Wreckage. So unable to find Thoughtseize last turn, but almost certainly able to find it next turn with how many lands are on the battlefield, how many clues are there as well.
And Lost Legacy plays too.
Yes, it
There's
does.
so many looks at a discard spell next turn.
Huckabone will draw. Is it an Ugin? Is it a Supreme Verdict? Is it something to prolong this game so he can work himself to a draw? It looks like it was just a Glacial Fortress. So now Huckabone's going to go, it looks like, towards Hour of Promise. There is the Hour. Do the count. 6 different land types. So it looks like a blue castle, among other options here for Dylan.
Yeah, I think one of the fields might have gotten milled over earlier from Ashiok.
I
don't know.
That is correct.
I don't think he's got the 4th copy left in the deck anymore.
So it'll be Temple of Enlightenment. Scry Trigger on the way, joining the Castle Vantress. And now there is a Glacial Fortress. So it looks like 9 zombies will be made, and now there is Lyra Dawnbringer. So now, if you're Autumn, you can think to yourself, I'm clear for takeoff. I don't have to worry about Settle the Wreckage or anything. Let me kill enough stuff to get this game over with. Noxious Grass works itself into the equation. Other removal spells do too. And can you cross the finish line for 14?
I mean, I think they're well over here. Oh, this makes it pretty easy.
Oh, is that Legion's End? That makes it as easy as can be. Autumn Burchett going to win this game and match here over Dylan Huckabone. 2 games to 1. Golgari Field will take care of Bant Rap, and for Autumn Burchett,